Hey guys, this is Collin Moshman for CardsChat.com. And first, don't miss a second of me and Katie's exclusive content. Click on the blue CardsChat logo in the bottom right corner to subscribe, or the red subscribe button below the video. And today's topic is shove fold poker. So here we have a pretty straightforward spot in a 9-man sit-n-go. And our first question is, do we shove? And fortunately, this is the easier question to answer. Okay, so let's just start here, and then we're going to move on to a slightly more advanced way of looking at this. I think is really important for increasing understanding of spots like this generally. So all I have to do is I click the Icmizer button, and this is going to tell me whether or not it's profitable to shove. So any hand that shows up in green, like our 8-6 offsuit, will be a profitable shove, and the red hands are not going to be profitable. Now, one thing I want to point out before moving on is that Icmizer is paid. You can use the free trial, but you don't need any kind of special or paid software to get this result. So to demonstrate that, here I have up in the free Hold'em Resources tool, and I've put in the stacks on the far left, then the blinds and antes in the middle, and the normal 50%, 30%, 20% paired structure of a 9-man, and I can click to calculate. Let's go ahead and do that. And no, we've gotten hit by a CAPTCHA. We have to find images with tractors. Can we do this? One time. Yes, beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down, and all this is saying is that if everybody folds to the button, then this is the range the small blind should call with. This is the range the big blind should call with. So here, when the small blind is shoving, the big blind is supposed to call with this range. And we see that 8-6 offsuit is in fact showing up as the bottom of our shoving range. So that's going to be something that is really nice. We get the same result even with this free program. It doesn't have quite the same nice user interface, but it's still going to be a great tool. So let's go back here and look at a couple of ways that we can deepen our understanding of this kind of a spot. So the first thing that I want to do is click here on Hand EV Chart. And you might say, well, what is this showing us? You know, like I don't get that, because that's my response when I first see something like this. So let's go ahead and break this down. And all this is saying is, how much money do we make as a function of how wide the big blind is calling us? Okay, so where it crosses the axis is the break-even point. Okay, so what this is saying is that if the big blind calls us this wide, and it shows here, this is a range of 38%, then we break even. It doesn't matter what we do, even factoring in 9-man ICM. But usually we don't want our opponent to call us very wide in 9-mans. And sure enough, you know, the wider he calls us, pretty much, unless he starts calling us with hands like deuce 3 offsuit, we're going to start losing more and more money. And by the way, these money differences, so it says EV difference. Well, what does that mean? Let's go to that for a second. I have this in terms of dollar equities. So this is going to be a $5.50 9-man sit-n-go with 9 players contributing $5 each toward the prize pool. So when it says here EV difference of negative 0.82, that means we lose 82 cents on average if our opponent is calling us with this very wide range and we still move all in. The best outcome for us is he pretty much never calls us. Okay, here he's calling us with only kings or better. He's the tightest player ever. And in that case, we're going to make over $1 because we pick up these crucial blinds and antes without a fight the vast majority of the time. So that's going to be a really cool way of visualizing how much we win or lose based on our opponent's range. And we can also go ahead and say, how does that impact our range? So let's say you have a super loose player and you think, hey, you know what? I actually think he is going to call me about 50% of the time. In that case, you shouldn't shove the 8-6 offsuit. And you can take a look. You can say, well, here I'm going to widen his calling range to about top 50%. And when we do that, what is our new shoving range going to be? And in fact, it shows up that we now fold the 8-6 offsuit and we're supposed to move all in with a much tighter range. So having done that, let's go ahead and unlock this again. So in order to do that, we'll click here, we'll click Icmizer, and we'll go back to these initial results. And the last thing I want to show is in this detailed results tab. So one thing that people are often very focused on is, I don't want to bust. Okay, that's the worst possible thing, right? We move all in and we bust. And so we can see how often do we actually bust, because what that requires is both that our opponent calls us and we lose. If both of those things don't happen, we're not going to bust. So this is going to show us how often do both of these bad outcomes happen. And when we do that, we see hero bust probability 24%. Okay, so we can move all in here, and over 3/4 of the time, we're not going to bust. We're either going to win the blinds and antes without a fight, or we're going to have a pretty big suck out and more than double up. And the remainder of this tab, we're not going to go through this, it's kind of complicated, but it's just going to be an expected value calculation. In other words, it's going to say, using ICM, we can know that if we fold, our stack is going to be worth $5.15. And if we move all in, then some of the time we're going to pick up the blinds and antes. The rest of the time, we're going to get it all in and be up against his range. And so it can use the tool of expected value to say, on average, if we move all in, we're going to gain 2 cents in equity. So these are going to be really cool ways to break down that shove fold decision-making process and help get a good handle on what's going on behind the scenes. So thanks a lot for watching. This has been Collin Moshman for CardsChat.com.